Here we are in early July. The garden's doing pretty well, so let's go take a look at it. This is the straw bale with the 4 purple sweet potatoes in it, and you can't see the straw bale anymore. The reason it looks like there's something missing is because something is. We harvested our carrots, and this is a look at all 6 varieties. I'll be doing a video on them soon, and I'll rank them from 6 to 1 on their taste, and also from 6 to 1 overall. Most of the carrots will be going into the freezer, and I'm still working on getting that done. One of the black nebulas was starting to flower, so I left it in the ground, and I'm going to be saving seeds from that one. And carrots put out a lot of seeds, and if you've never saved seeds from carrots before and want to know how it's done, I did a video on that subject, and I'll put a link down below. We've harvested the green long beans several times already, and the red noodle beans are about 2 weeks behind and are starting to produce pretty heavily right now. They start down near the ground and work their way up the cage. As you can see, we're going to be getting plenty of these just like we did with the green ones. I had the red noodle beans already, and I bought a type called purple potted, but if you look at them side by side, they look like the exact same thing to me. Just a different name for the same bean, I think. Our first harvest of red noodle beans was a pretty good one, in my opinion. In the second straw bale, the orange hat micro tomatoes are starting to fall over a little bit from all the tomatoes on them. They're doing really well compared to the micro toms. In the third straw bale, we have the red garnet sweet potatoes, and just beyond that, it might look like something's missing there too. And that's because we had to pull out the Armenian cucumbers. I really hated to see it go because it was doing very well, and it had grown past the top of the cage and was starting to climb on the bamboo a little bit. And it was already starting to get some female flowers and would have produced quite a few cucumbers if it would have had time. But it was starting to get some sort of disease, and I'm not sure if it was bacterial or fungal, but it was moving pretty quickly. Quite a few of the leaves started getting brown spots, and the brown spots would grow until the entire leaf was brown and started to die. Usually I would try to treat, but it was so fast moving I didn't want to take a chance on it spreading to any other plants in the garden, so I just put it in the trash. The Marketmore 76 cucumbers are still producing more than we can eat, and the Kentucky blue pole beans are covered with blooms, and they're just now starting to set on some small beans. So we'll be enjoying a lot of those very soon. Then next to those we have more long beans, and as you can see, those are about ready to harvest again. A lot of things that we have growing in the cages are finally reaching the top of the cages, so I've added bamboo, and that extends it to about 7.5 feet, and as you can see, the beans have already reached that. It took them quite a while to get going, but the python snake beans are finally starting to climb and are reaching the top of the cage fairly quickly once they got started. I'm not sure how well these will do, but I hope we get at least a few to sample. We also have some zinnias back by the back fence, and next to those are our 2 types of small melons. Those are starting to produce female flowers now, so it won't be long and we'll be seeing some small melons on this one. The jicama is another slow grower, and it's finally starting to climb the cage. But please remember, the foliage and beans are poisonous on this one. The Malabar spinach is climbing very quickly now, and it's starting to branch out in several directions too, and it's already at the top of the bamboo, which is 7.5 feet. I'm guessing that in a few weeks we won't be able to see this cage at all. This is the Mexican sunflower that I planted very late, so it'll be in this prime when the monarchs come through in a couple of months. The tomatillos are probably getting close to 5 feet tall now. And the eggplants are starting to pick up steam. The one on the left is the pink tongue, and it's covered with blooms. And down at the very bottom, we already have an eggplant. It won't be long and this one will be covered with small eggplants because of how many blooms it has. Next to it is the matoyo, and it has a bloom down at the bottom, and it'll be having eggplants on it soon. Most of the peppers are starting to gain size now, with some of them growing a little bit faster than others. And we even have a few little peppers here and there, like on this little albino bullnose. I think it has 5 or 6 little peppers on it. And right next to the peppers we have the tomatoes, and they're doing very well too. I just posted a video Wednesday on those, so if you want to know more details about just the tomatoes, I'll put a link down below. I saw this little guy on her porch, and a couple of evenings later I saw him out in the backyard, or at least it was one the same size. And he went under the fence. I saw where it went under, so I plugged the hole, and I thought I had the problem solved. But this morning I found this tomato, and I'm sure that little possum is what did the damage. So I went and checked, and sure enough it dug another hole. So I think I might have to start getting serious with this little guy. He's living dangerously and might have to find a new home. I found a small tomato hornworm. I started looking around a little bit, and look what I found. This is a hummingbird moth, and that's what lays the eggs that turn into tomato hornworms. So I started spraying BT along with the neem oil that I was already using. When I'm using BT, I usually spray about once every 10 days. And like I've said before, it's always something. And while I was looking around, I found this tomato that had a fruit worm in it. And it's pretty well did this tomato in. But I'll take care of that one. Here's a look at some of the other pepper plants and the backside of the tomato plants. And that string trellis back by the back fence with the cucumbers is doing very well. I still haven't gotten around to thinning out the corn in the grow bag, so it's badly overcrowded, but it's doing well. These are some crosses between an Oda and a hot pepper, and I have 5 of them in that grow bag. And the ones in this grow bag are ornamentals. We have New Mex Easter, an explosive ember with a purple flash in the middle that's trying to get smothered out. The pepper in this container is Jigsaw, and it's quickly becoming my favorite ornamental so far. It just has really cool looking foliage, and it branches out really well without too much topping. I topped it once when it was small. And the other hot peppers in these containers are doing pretty well now. And I even have some ginger. Some of you might remember this one. It's the little canna that I started from seed. It's finally starting to bloom, and it's looking pretty good, I think, for one that I just grew from seed. The fennel is about even with the bottom of the roof of the shed, and the musabash Jews about as tall as the shed. And it's got some huge leaves on it, and they're overhanging the Musa velutina and the dwarf Orinoco, so I'm going to have to trim some of those, I think, just so the other bananas can get some sunlight. This volunteer velvet queen is about 8 feet tall now, and the pollinators really love this one. The zinnias are doing pretty well this year, and this is another flower that the pollinators really like to utilize. We've seen several butterflies on them too, the black swallowtail, monarchs, and even the tiger swallowtail. The ornamental peppers in the stackable pots are finally starting to get peppers on them, and the rose moss will be blooming very soon. The watermelons are taking up quite a bit of real estate, but we are getting a few that are setting on now, so hopefully we'll get to sample both types we have growing. The corn is doing very well and is fully tasseled out now, and it's producing a lot of pollen, and if you get close to the leaves you can see it's just piling up on there like dust. The tassels are the male flower on the corn, and the ears with the silk are the female flower, and it's forming quite a few ears. Here's a look at some of the pickled beets we made a while back with the beets we harvested. We used a small batch recipe for refrigerator pickled beets. And if you're interested in seeing that, I'll put a link down below and up above. The other day I trimmed some of the sweet potatoes in the straw bale so they wouldn't sprawl out into the garden. I stuck those trimmings down in these jars, and as you can see it's grown a lot of roots. This fall I'll be harvesting some very small sweet potatoes off of these, and I'll be saving those till next spring to plant or start slips from. I've got a lot more stuff that I could show you, but I have to stop somewhere, so if you're just now finding this channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. We'll see you next time.